Breaking news, Viking Nation. The first revelation is about to detonate inside US Bank Stadium, and what's coming will shake the foundation of everything you thought you knew about this franchise. A starting position has been handed to a veteran warrior who's been waiting in the shadows. A quarterback controversy is brewing that could split the fanbase down the middle. A blockbuster trade is crashing and burning before our very eyes. A legend's return isn't going according to plan, and the coaching decisions that are making fans question everything. Each of these shocks could redefine the future of this team. And if you bleed purple and gold more than you hate those cheese-wearing frauds in Green Bay, you need to hear every single word. The storm starts right now with a revelation no one saw coming, and trust me, Viking Nation, this is only the beginning of what promises to be the most explosive week in Minnesota football history. But hold on, as shocking as that opening blast was, the first bombshell cuts even deeper into the heart of this franchise. Something happened this Monday that sent shockwaves through the offensive line, and when Kevin O'Connell stepped to that podium, the news he delivered changed everything for the upcoming battle. The injury report just got more brutal, and now Minnesota is scrambling to find answers before they face one of the most vicious defenses in the entire league. A veteran stepped up, a decision was made, and the starting lineup for Week 4 has been completely reshuffled. Blake Brandel ***. That's right, the journeyman warrior who's been grinding in the trenches, waiting for his moment, has been handed the keys to the left guard position, and he's about to go to war against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Dublin. This isn't just a roster move, Viking Nation. This is about survival, about proving that depth matters when the bullets start flying, and about showing that this franchise can adapt when adversity strikes hardest. Brandel stepped in seamlessly when Christian Darrisaw needed backup, and now O'Connell is betting everything on this veteran's ability to anchor the left side of the line. The coach's confidence is sky high, talking about how Brandel started 18 games in that exact position just 1 year ago, and how with Ryan Kelly returning to center, this offensive line might actually be stronger than before. But here's what's really wild. Donovan Jackson, the rookie who was supposed to be the future, is out for at least a few weeks after wrist surgery, and that means Brandel isn't just filling in, he's potentially reshaping the entire identity of this offensive unit. The Steelers' defense is ranked 23rd in the NFL, giving up 25.7 points per game, but don't let those numbers fool you, because TJ Watt and that Pittsburgh front seven are about to test every single weakness in this makeshift line. Brandel at 28 years old knows this might be his last shot at proving he belongs in this league. And the way O'Connell talks about him, you can feel the respect, the trust, the belief that this 6th round pick from 2020 can hold down the fort when everything is on the line. If you believe Blake Brandel can shut down Pittsburgh's pass rush and prove that Viking depth runs deeper than any team in the NFC, smash that like button right now and show those Steelers fans that Minnesota doesn't back down from anyone. And just when fans thought the offensive line drama was intense, here comes the next bombshell that might just redefine everything you thought you knew about this quarterback situation. The controversy that's been simmering beneath the surface just exploded into full view, and Kevin O'Connell's latest comments have Viking Nation split right down the middle about what should happen next. **J.J. McCarthy***, the future of this franchise. The first-round pick, who was supposed to lead Minnesota into a new era, is still nursing the ankle injury, and Carson Wentz just lit up the Cincinnati Bengals with a 48-10 demolition. That has some people wondering if the rookie should even get his job back. O'Connell refused to commit to putting McCarthy back in the starting lineup the moment he's healthy, and those words sent shockwaves through every corner of Viking Nation. Before anything, he needs to get healthy, the coach said. It's not one of those things where if he's healthy the night before the game, we're just going to put him out there and say, hey, go figure it out. But here's where this gets absolutely wild. Wentz completed 70% of his passes for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns against Cincinnati. And while those aren't superstar numbers, some analysts are wondering if Minnesota should ride the hot hand instead of rushing their young quarterback back into action. McCarthy's adjusted QBR of 20.6 ranks dead last among qualified quarterbacks in the NFL. And that stat alone is making some fans question whether patience might be the smartest move. The ESPN bet odds have the Vikings favored by 2.5 points against Pittsburgh, and if Wentz can deliver another solid performance in Dublin, the quarterback controversy might extend all the way to London for Week 5. O'Connell keeps talking about development, about giving McCarthy the tools he needs to succeed, about not throwing him back into the fire before he's truly ready. But the elephant in the room is simple. What if Carson Wentz gives this team the best chance to win right now? What if the veteran experience, the steady hand, the ability to manage games without turning the ball over is exactly what this franchise needs, while McCarthy continues to learn and grow? And what if rushing the rookie back too soon actually hurts his development more than helping it? But trust me, the story only gets darker from here. The next twist will leave you speechless, because not everyone in Viking Nation is buying into this quarterback controversy narrative. The pushback against benching McCarthy has been swift and brutal, and the arguments being made might just change how you think about this entire situation. Asterisk asterisk, the idea of keeping J.J. McCarthy on the bench asterisk asterisk is being called reckless, and compared to the Anthony Richardson disaster in Indianapolis. And those are fighting words that have ignited a firestorm across social media and sports talk radio. The critics are asking one simple question: how does one mediocre game from Carson Wentz suddenly convince Kevin O'Connell to abandon the franchise quarterback they've been building around for the past 18 months? They're pointing out that Wentz had the luxury of Christian Darrisaw protecting him, something McCarthy didn't have in his struggles. And they're questioning whether a QBR of 30 for 0.7 against Cincinnati is really worth derailing a young quarterback's development. The comparison to Anthony Richardson is particularly brutal. The Colts thought they had a young, inexperienced player who needed time and patience, but they pulled him too early after an injury, then benched him in the middle of his second season, and now the 4th overall pick isn't even starting anymore. The fear is that Minnesota might be walking down that same dangerous path, sacrificing long-term success for short-term comfort, and potentially destroying the confidence of a quarterback they invested a first-round pick in. Justin Jefferson's comments after the Atlanta loss seem to support McCarthy, with the superstar receiver saying it's his second game, "We understand. We don't expect JJ to be perfect. We don't expect anybody to be perfect. But we expect everyone to do their job when it's needed." Even more telling is Kevin O'Connell's own words from a year ago on The Rich Eisen Show. "I believe organizations fail young quarterbacks before they fail organizations." And critics are wondering if the coach is about to contradict his own philosophy. The argument is that every move the Vikings have made in the past 18 months has been with McCarthy as the starter in mind, including not making a significant effort to re-sign Sam Darnold, who won 14 games in 2024 as Minnesota's quarterback. Why would that change after just 3 weeks of the season? Especially when the struggles came in only 2 games before an injury. The development process is supposed to be about patience, about giving young players the repetitions they need, about building confidence through experience. And benching McCarthy for Wentz after such a small sample size could send the message that the organization doesn't truly believe in their investment. And listen, the next chapter is the kind of news that divides a fan base right down the middle. Because while the quarterback situation dominates headlines, there's another story brewing that might be even more concerning for Viking Nation. The big trade that was supposed to solve problems is creating new ones, and the numbers don't lie about just how badly this gamble is backfiring. Asterisk asterisk Adam Thielen asterisk asterisk, the beloved veteran who returned home to Minnesota in a deal that cost the Vikings a 4th-round pick, has been virtually invisible through 3 games. And fans are starting to wonder if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah got fleeced by the Carolina Panthers to receptions for 26 yards in 3 games isn't just disappointing. It's downright alarming for a player who was brought in to be the WR2, while Jordan Addison served his suspension. The trade details make this even more painful. Minnesota gave up a 2027 4th-round pick that Carolina will own no matter what happens, along with a 2026 5th-rounder in exchange for Thielen, a conditional 2026 7th-round pick, and a 2027 5th-round pick. When you break down the math, the Vikings essentially paid a 4th-round pick for a 35-year-old receiver who's on pace for 147 receiving yards this season. And that's not the kind of return on investment that championship teams make. The timing couldn't be worse either. Jordan Addison returns from suspension this week, which means Thielen's role was supposed to be temporary anyway. But instead of stepping up as a reliable veteran presence, he's been completely absent when the team needed him most. Against the Bears, Bengals, and Falcons, Thielen had 0 receptions in 2 of those games despite being targeted, and his only productive moment was a 2-point conversion catch in Week 1. The advanced analytics paint an even grimmer picture. Thielen is performing like a WR5, not the WR2 that Minnesota desperately needed during Addison's absence. Kevin O'Connell is trying to put a positive spin on the situation, talking about Thielen's impact in the running game and how his opportunities will come. But the reality is that this trade was made to provide immediate help, and that help simply hasn't materialized. The most frustrating part might be that Minnesota's offense has been finding ways to succeed without Thielen contributing, which raises the question of whether they even needed to make this trade in the first place. Justin Jefferson has been doing most of the heavy lifting, with Yalen Naylor, TJ Hawkinson, and Josh Oliver filling the gaps, and now with Addison returning, Thielen might find himself even further down the pecking order. Because if you thought this was the peak of chaos, the real avalanche is just starting, and the final story brewing in Minnesota might be the most revealing of all. About how this franchise handles adversity and expectations, the spotlight is about to get even brighter on Adam Thielen as Viking Nation waits to see if the veteran can justify his price, tag and prove that experience still matters in today's NFL. The harsh reality is that Thielen hasn't just been quiet, he's been nearly invisible. And that's not what you expect from a player who was supposed to be the safety valve, the reliable target, the veteran presence that young quarterbacks could count on when plays broke down. His last 2 seasons in Carolina weren't spectacular, but they were serviceable, and the assumption was that returning to Minnesota, where he built his reputation and understood the culture, would rejuvenate his career and provide immediate dividends. Instead, we're seeing a 35-year-old receiver who looks like Father Time might be catching up faster than anyone anticipated, and the whispers about whether Minnesota should have just rolled with their existing receivers are getting louder with each passing week. The game flow hasn't helped Thielen's cause. The dominant win over Cincinnati saw the Vikings with a massive lead. That didn't require much passing. The loss to Atlanta was a grinded-out affair with minimal offensive plays, and even the Week 1 win over Chicago was a low-volume passing attack that limited opportunities for everyone not named Justin Jefferson. But here's what makes this situation so concerning for Viking Nation. Good receivers find ways to get involved regardless of game script, and Thielen's inability to command targets suggests that either the chemistry with his quarterbacks isn't there, or his separation ability has declined more than anyone realized. Kevin O'Connell is doing his best to manage the narrative, pointing out that Thielen almost had a touchdown against Cincinnati when Carson Wentz threw a pass just out of reach in the end zone, and emphasizing how the veterans' blocking and leadership have been valuable. Even without the statistics, the coach also made it clear that with Jordan Addison returning, Minnesota now has 4 legitimate starting receivers, which should theoretically create more opportunities for everyone by spreading defensive attention. But Viking Nation isn't interested in moral victories or intangible contributions. They want production from a trade that cost them draft capital, and they want to see results that justify the decision to bring Thielen back, instead of developing younger players or exploring other options. The upcoming game against Pittsburgh represents a crucial opportunity for Thielen to silence critics, especially since the Steelers have the 6th worst pass defense in the NFL by DVOA, which should create favorable matchups for Minnesota's receiving corps. And if this week felt like an earthquake, what's coming next could be the aftershock that topples the whole season, because the decisions made in Dublin and London over the next 2 weeks might determine whether these early season controversies become footnotes in a successful campaign or warning signs of deeper problems that will haunt this franchise for years to come. Think this was wild? Just wait until the rivals make their counter move, because that war is only beginning, and every move Minnesota makes will be scrutinized, analyzed, and used as ammunition by those cheese-wearing frauds in Green Bay and every other team in the NFC that thinks they can challenge Viking Nation's march toward a championship. If Thielen can't produce against a vulnerable secondary, with his quarterback situation potentially stabilizing and his familiarity with the system growing each week, then questions about this trade will only intensify as the season progresses. The Blake Brandel experiment at left guard, the J.J. McCarthy development timeline, the Carson Wentz hot streak, the Adam Thielen redemption story, all of these storylines are converging in Dublin this Sunday, and the outcomes will ripple through the rest of this season and beyond. If you're still standing with this team through all the chaos, if you believe that Minnesota's depth and resilience will carry them through these early storms, then hit that subscribe button like your life depends on it and prove to every rival fan base that Viking Nation doesn't just survive adversity, We thrive in it. The next 72 hours might be the most decisive in this franchise's history, and when the dust settles in Ireland, we'll know whether this team is built for championship glory or destined for another year of heartbreak. Stay tuned, Viking Warriors, because the real battle is just beginning.